Hi, I'm Greg Pisecki, and you're watching the Oakland Normal News. We start off today's news with yet another tragic story of a police raid gone bad. Michigan cop shot unarmed 20-year-old marijuana activist by Stephen C. Webster, Monday, March 16, 2009. A 20-year-old university student in Michigan is hospitalized and in serious condition after police shot the man Wednesday while serving a drug warrant. He was unarmed, investigators said. Coming through an apartment's back door, an Ottawa County deputy allegedly shined a flashlight into the student's face, causing him to raise his right hand in front of his eyes. The officer, whose name was not released, fired a single bullet into Derek Copp's chest. The 20-year-old Grand Valley State University student, who survived the shooting, said he had no idea the man was an officer. He never even had a chance to see who was coming at him with a bright flashlight in his face, said Cheryl Copp, Derek's mother, in a 24-hour News 8 report. He had no clue. He heard someone knock on his door, and he had no clue. Copp's parents insist their son is not a drug dealer. However, he appears to be a marijuana activist. Stating on his Facebook page he likes to smoke a dabolski, smoke a bowl, and on his YouTube page, in a video titled Hippie Lunchtime Hour, he makes references to baking marijuana-infused brownies. In another, he plays a fictional role of an acid dealer whose friend goes on a psychedelic journey through cliché colors. Copp's parents were not notified of the shooting by police, reported Celeb Stoner. They allegedly found out 6 hours later. The officer is on paid administrative leave. Police have not said whether they found any drugs in Copp's apartment. Monday, a group of about 25 protesters gathered outside the Ottawa County Sheriff's Department holding signs which read, "Don't shoot, I'm unarmed," and "Why did you shoot my friend?" "I want to know what brought the enforcement team to Derek's apartment and why a firearm was discharged," wrote University President Thomas Haas in a Monday email sent to police and student activists. "The fact that this incident took place off campus diminishes neither my interest nor my concern," he said in a report by MLive.com. Jim DeVries, with the Police Officers Association of Michigan, said the deputy is required by contract to give a statement in any internal sheriff's department investigation that could impact his job, but it cannot be used by prosecutors for any criminal charges, reported MLive.com. So far, no internal statement has been requested. DeVries said it's not unusual for a union-represented officer to forego speaking with investigators in a shooting incident, and he does not think it gives the appearance of wrongdoing. Derek Copp's family, meantime, has hired Grand Rapids attorney Fred Dilley, reported ABC WZZM Channel 13. In a statement, he says, "We have some very important questions about what appears to be some shocking police activity. Dilley says his client is making a satisfactory but guarded recovery. The bullet tore through his upper right lung and liver and damaged 2 ribs." As for the protesters, their voices were heard by the Ottawa County Sheriff Department. After a brief meeting, they decided to sit down and discuss the issue as soon as the investigation is complete. Organizers said the next major event planned is a march 1 p.m. Friday in Grand Rapids, reported the Holland Sentinel. National media has been absent on the case, and local media has focused on, quote, irrelevancies, unquote, noted Michigan Messenger's Ed Brayton. The Grand Rapids Press took a look at Copp's Facebook page and found that it had, quote, drug references, unquote, as though that had some bearing on whether he should have been shot or not. They found out that the student had expressed his advocacy and interest in reforming marijuana laws, and that he had declared himself to be a, quote, left-wing hippie peace-keeping liberal, unquote. But wait, there's more. He had advocated the passage of last fall's proposal to legalize medical marijuana in Michigan. He had liked the movie Drugstore Cowboy, as well as Martin Scorsese movies. Worst of all, he had quoted Grateful Dead lyrics. This strikes me as the drug war equivalent of asking what a rape victim was wearing. Copp reportedly wants to be a filmmaker and said he may produce a work based on the shooting. I was able to attend a march in Ann Arbor sponsored by SSDP in support of Derek Copp and against the police tactics that brought us to this place. Let's hear from Chris Childs, Executive Director of the U of M chapter of Students for Sensible Drug Policy. Then we'll see some of the day's march. Here's the video.
Hi, my name is Chris Childs. I'm the Executive Director of Students for Sensible Drug Policy at the University of Michigan. We are a grassroots network of students who oppose the war on drugs and know that's creating a lot more harm than good, individuals and society. We were out here today on campus rallying against a shooting at Grand Valley State University, shooting of Derek Copp, who was a student that was shot in a drug raid in the chest, although he was unarmed, and the police even said themselves there appeared to be no confrontation. This is a very tragic story, it's very sad, but it could have been avoided. It could have been avoided. Although it might have been an accident, and regardless of the mistakes made by Derek and the officers, they created this situation that is prone to create accidents. Accidents will happen when you're doing no-knock drug raids, coming in through someone's back door with weapons. Accidents like this can happen, and they will happen, and they will continue to happen unless we treat drugs differently in our society. If we end the drug war, if we end prohibition, and start having sensible policies where we regulate and actually control the drugs in a manner maybe similar to alcohol, tobacco, or through the medical system. I hate to say legalize drugs because there's such a stigma with that, but there's different forms of legalization. Obviously, what's happening right now with this black market, with this incident at Grand Valley State University, things could be better. We could avoid accidents like this in the future, and I hope we do. And that's what we're out here. That's what we're out here to do. That's what Students for Sensible Drug Policy is all about. And if you want to find out more about our organization, you can go to our national website, which is schoolsnotprisons.com, or our chapter website for the University of Michigan, which is umdrugpolicy.org. Thank you very much. I'm glad I could get a hold of this, so I'll use this just so maybe the video camera can pick this up as well. And I want to invite everyone else walking around to come over here as well, because we're starting a rally against the shooting of Derek Copp at Grand Valley State University. Derek Copp was an unarmed individual, and the cops broke into his home. I mean, they had a search warrant for drugs, but the details of this still have not come out. They have not said what they have found. All we know really is that he was an unarmed individual who they shot in the chest. The chest is a very important part of the body. I don't know if you guys know that. Derek, thankfully, is not dead. He was sent to the hospital. He was in very serious condition. He was released just a couple days ago, and I believe now he's resting with family. But a shot to the chest can do a lot of harm. It can do a lot more harm than smoking marijuana for your entire life could do. I think that's a pretty easy statement to make. If anyone wants to argue it, they can. But obviously, this is a horrible tragedy. It's a horrible incident. And regardless of mistakes that were made by Derek and the cops, this situation could have been avoided. It could have been avoided. If we end this drug war, if we stop going after these people for using illicit drugs like marijuana, then we can avoid so many situations like this. We can get rid of so much violence going on in our streets because of the black market that this drug war really creates. We can end the violence that's going on between drug gangs, drug cartels. We cut off their sources of funding when we legalize drugs, when we regulate drugs, take it out of the hands of these criminals. They don't have any power left. Really, they don't. They make so much money from that, and that's how they get so much power. Let's take the power away from the criminals, from the gangs, from the cartels, and let's do something sensible and make drugs like marijuana legal. We want education, not incarceration. We want education, not incarceration. Derek Copp was shot in a drug raid, although he was unarmed and there was no confrontation, and he probably just had marijuana. This is what his attorney is saying. He just had like a handful of marijuana, just a personal amount of marijuana, but he was shot in the chest during this drug raid. This is tragic. This is appalling. This is shocking. This is annoying. This is frustrating.
Chanting.
Does this piss you off?
Yeah.
What do we want?
Answers.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Answers.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Answers.
When do we want it?
Now.
We'll be right back.
Get up, get up, get up, get up, go, get up, go.
Got stickers? Oakland County Normal does not endorse the random stickering of other people's property, both public and private. All rights reserved.
Welcome back. Obama administration likely to review UMass scientists' bid to grow marijuana. Wednesday, March 18th, 2009. By Katie Sanders, thenationaljournal.com. Days before President Bush left office in January, his administration fired a parting shot at Professor Lyle Craker's 8-year quest to cultivate marijuana for medical research by abruptly denying him a federal license, despite a nearly 2-year-old drug enforcement law judge's recommendation that he receive one. But the new administration led by President Obama, who has publicly backed the use of marijuana for purposes to stave off pain, might reverse the decision and keep Craker's license application from going up in smoke. A source familiar with the case said the White House will likely demand the decision be reviewed. Basically, they want to do an autopsy of what occurred and have it go through a proper review, the source said. Craker, who is based at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, is cautiously optimistic Obama will do to the denial of the marijuana license what he has done to other Bush administration decisions on such hot-button cultural issues as embryonic stem cell research and the abortion gag rule affecting overseas family planning groups. Obama has indicated that he's for science over politics, Craker said in an interview. And I certainly feel the situation we have currently is politics over science. Just last week, Obama called for the head of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy to develop a strategy for restoring scientific integrity to government decision-making. The public must be able to trust the science and scientific process in forming public policy decisions, Obama wrote. Public officials should not suppress or alter scientific or technological findings and conclusions. On the issue of medicinal marijuana, Obama said at a November 2007 campaign stop in Iowa that he was open to allowing its use if it is what science and physicians suggest would be the best way to ease suffering. There is no difference between that and morphine when it comes to just giving people relief to pain, Obama said then. Administration officials familiar with Craker's application for a DEA license to grow the plant would not comment on the case. Last month, 16 House members wrote Attorney General Holder asking him to amend or withdraw the DEA's final order on Craker's application so the president's new head of the DEA could review the application. They wrote that the administrative law judge's decisions, quote, left no doubt, unquote, that Craker is qualified to cultivate marijuana for research purposes. The members, led by Representative John Oliver, Democrat from Massachusetts, said they were concerned the Bush administration's ruling violated the spirit of a January 20th memorandum from White House Chief of Staff Emanuel that essentially froze all 11th hour final orders. The memo distributed shortly after the inauguration asked agency officials to reconsider final rules and regulations that have been published in the Federal Register but have yet to take effect. Craker's battle with the Bush administration began in 2001 when he applied for federal license to become a bulk manufacturer of marijuana and establish a privately funded facility at his university for DEA and FDA-approved marijuana research. His application posed a challenge to a decades-long monopoly enjoyed by the University of Mississippi as the country's only legal producer of marijuana for medical research, a program started in 1968 and overseen by the National Institute on Drug Abuse since 1974. A longtime backer, Senate Appropriations Ranking Member Thad Cochran funneled $3.5 million in earmarked funds to the university's National Center for Natural Products Research, which is housed in a building that bears his name, in the fiscal year 09 omnibus spending bill. His press secretary said this week that, as an Ole Miss alumnus, Cochran is proud to have the center in his state, and that the decision on any other license is, quote-unquote, up to the DEA. In 2007, a DEA administrative law judge issued a non-binding recommendation in favor of granting Craker's a license, saying NIDA's Mississippi-grown supply provided to approved scientists was insufficient for the research marijuana merits. Despite letters of support from 45 House members and Massachusetts Democratic Senators Edward Kennedy and John Kerry, then DEA Administrator Karen Tandy and her successor, Acting Administrator Michelle Leonhardt, made no decisions on the license application for more than a year. But less than a week before Bush left the Oval Office, Leonhardt issued a final order denying Craker's application, aiming to close the books on a case that lasted nearly as long as Bush's tenure in office. She set February 13th as the final order's effective date. The timing led Craker and Alan Hopper, who leads a legal team provided by the American Civil Liberties Union, to assume the decision was politically motivated. Administrative law judges are usually nonpartisan technocrats who examine cases from legal and rational points of view, Hopper said. But when you get to the level of DEA administrator, that's a political appointment, he said. The source familiar with the case agreed the decision was entirely political. It just seems it was rushed on ideological grounds, this source said. Craker said one reason Leonhardt did not favor granting him a license was concern it would set off a rush of license applications from researchers seeking to grow their own. I think our case is dynamite in a logjam, Craker said. Once something like this is broken, it's kind of hard to put it back together. Since the final order, Hopper has filed a motion to reconsider and has asked for a hearing to present witness and evidence that can refute Leonhardt's arguments. Meanwhile, 4 days before February 13th effective date of the order denying a license to Craker, Leonhardt, who is still DEA's acting chief but now reports to Obama, extended the date to April 1st. Justice Department spokeswoman Laura Sweeney, who fielded questions about marijuana licensing, said the date was pushed back because Craker's legal team asked for an extension to file supplemental evidence. She said it was not in response to Emanuel's January 20th memo. Much of the outcome hinges on the fact that Obama has not yet nominated someone to lead the DEA. Representative Sam Farr, Democrat of California, who co-signed the letter to Holder, remarked that the Obama administration has moved incredibly slow at filling this position. But with a plunging economy and 2 wars, who can blame Obama for the lack of immediate attention due to the drug issue? I hate to tell you this, it's not the most important issue that I'm concerned about, Farr said. We'll be right back.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 1920s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Welcome back. Attorney General signals shift in marijuana policy by Devlin Barrett, Associated Press. Washington. Attorney General Eric Holder signaled a change on medical marijuana policy Wednesday, saying federal agents will target marijuana distributors only when they violate both federal and state law. That would be a departure from the policy of the Bush administration, which targeted medical marijuana dispensaries in California even if they complied with that state's law. The policy is to go after those people who violate both federal and state law, Holder said in a question and answer session with reporters at the Justice Department. Medical marijuana advocates in California welcomed the news, but said they still worried about the pending cases of those already in court on drug charges. California law permits the sale of marijuana for medical purposes, though it is still against federal law. Holder did not spell out exactly who no longer would face the prospect of raids by the Drug Enforcement Administration, but he was quick to add that law enforcement officers will target anyone who tries to, quote, use medical marijuana law as a shield for other illegal activity, unquote. Given the limited resources that we have, our focus will be on people, organizations that are growing, cultivating substantial amounts of marijuana and doing so in a way that's inconsistent with federal and state law, the Attorney General said. Advocates and government officials had been waiting since President Barack Obama was sworn into office for a clear signal on what the new president's drug policy would be toward medical marijuana. As a candidate, he repeatedly promised a change in policy in situations which the state laws allow the use of medical marijuana. Yet shortly after Obama took office, DEA agents raided 4 dispensaries in Los Angeles, prompting confusion about the government's plans. 13 states have laws permitting medical use of marijuana. California is unique among them for the presence of dispensaries, which are businesses that sell marijuana and even advertise their services. Legal under California law, such dispensaries are still illegal under federal law. Chris Hermes, a spokesman for national medical marijuana advocacy group Americans for Safe Access, said he welcomed Holder's perspective. It signals a new direction and more reasonable and sensible direction on medical marijuana policy, he said. Still, Hermes said his Oakland-based organization was concerned about the fate of more than 24 California medical marijuana cases currently pending in federal court. There remains a big question as to what the federal government's position is on those cases, Hermes said. He pointed specifically to the case of Charles Lynch, who was federally convicted for running a medical marijuana dispensary collective in San Luis Obispo County last year. Hermes said Lynch could face decades in prison when he is sentenced Monday, even though his clinic had been compliant with state law. According to the government's sentencing recommendations for Lynch, which says the 5-year mandatory minimum prison term is an appropriate one, Lynch had violated California state law because his, quote, operation was rife with activities having more to do with business and casual drug distribution than anything medical, unquote. U.S. Attorney's Office spokesman Thom Rozak declined to comment on what would happen to the outstanding marijuana cases in the Los Angeles area. Associated Press writer Thomas Watkins in Los Angeles contributed to this report. Upcoming events. Saturday, April 4th at high noon is the 38th annual Hash Bash on the Diag at the University of Michigan campus in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Immediately following Hash Bash is the Monroe Street Fair, which is a short walk from the Diag. They have vendors and live music until 5 p.m. You can find out more about Hash Bash at www.myspace.com/MI-Hashbash and find out more about the Monroe Street Fair at www.monroestreetfair.com. April 6th is the first day application forms for Michigan's medical marijuana program can be turned in, and there will be a big event marking this momentous occasion. from the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association's website on Monday, April 6th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Where will it be? 2021 East Michigan Avenue, Lansing, Michigan. We will be massing patients at Gone Wired Cafe in Lansing at 9 a.m. to take them to the MDCH's BHP office so they can hand deliver them. This will be an event with TV and newspaper reporters on scene, so be prepared to engage reporters. Swing on over to their website, www.michiganmedicalmarijuana.org, and check them out. They are leading the way in Michigan for medical marijuana patients. April 9th is Oakland County Normal's next meeting. We will be at the Bloomfield Township Public Library downstairs in Meeting Room 1 from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. We will be going over the finalized version of the forms and rules for Michigan's medical marijuana program. For a map and more information, go to www.oaklandnormal.org. Lastly, don't forget, Detroit Liberation Day, Saturday, May 2nd, noon to 6 at Grand Circus Park in beautiful downtown Detroit. Oakland County Normal will be at all of these events, and we hope to see you there too. Thanks for tuning in. You've been watching the Oakland Normal News. I'm Greg Piasecki, and remember, stay smart and stay safe.